This is probably one of the most enjoyable Volume 1 reads that I've had in a long time. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Volume 1, the anime and manga podcast where we highlight and discuss new series each week. My name is Josh Idol Michaels, and today I am joined by...
Mehgan.
Yeah, I kind of stole the most obvious one.
Let me see. Mehgan.
Come on.
Twinning it, Perrine.
Okay. Yeah. You got it. You got it.
Jeez.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Volume 1 today. We will be discussing Volume 1 of Oshi no Ko. This is a series that has been recommended to us by a lot of our viewers. We've seen it in the comments multiple times. So we finally decided to check it out and see what it was all about. Mehgan, did you know anything about the series going into it?
I'd seen the cover for a while, like on Twitter and like Instagram. I really didn't know what it was about. Like based off of this, I really liked the art and I was like, oh, that's kind of cute. But I had no idea like who drew it or who did the story. And when I found that out, I was really like, oh, this is probably going to be really good.
Yeah. I knew nothing about this series going into it. And before we start revealing kind of who is behind this series, Volume 1, Sean, why don't you hit us with a spoiler-free synopsis for this series, please?
16-year-old Ai Hoshino is a talented and beautiful idol who is adored by her fans.
Mm-hmm.
She is the personification of a pure young maiden, but all that glitters is not gold.
Oh.
I feel like that could be used in any description of idols in Japan ever.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that is a super spoiler-free synopsis. A lot of this story, I don't know how much of my experience was dependent on me knowing nothing about this and going in 100% blind.
Mm-hmm.
So briefly, at the beginning of this episode, we are going to talk about this series without giving its twist away, although its twist is sort of revealed in the first chapter. But
and what a twist.
And really and truly, what a twist.
And a twist that was a twist that could have been a bad one had it gone a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
But they really made it easily digestible.
Yes.
And they made it like not how it could have been, which was like creepy and gross.
For sure.
Just the right amount of that was included, but overall, like, it was really well done.
Yeah.
And there are other, things that do it bad.
I think
we'll kind of talk about that when we get into the spoilers.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a fun conversation. I think me and Mehgan might even kind of disagree on a couple points, but all the better to talk about. But before we start going deep into it, we have to get to our highlighted comment of the day.
Highlighted comment.
And today's comment comes from Not So Me? ? You mean 3 One Piece videos, but still no Bleach? Yes, I'm salty.
Ooh. Yeah, this is not the first comment we've gotten about this either.
Yeah, first of all, Not So Me, sorry about that. And, the real answer and response to that comment is that I think it's been a hard decision to make, but I think where we landed is we are going to finish Soul Society, but for many reasons, which we can get into more at the end of this episode, with our current schedules and our current streams and our current episode releases and the cosplays that we put into some of our episodes, it is looking more and more like adding on another volume done series, as we call it, is unfortunately at this current moment in time going to be way too much. The past couple of weeks when we have been doing it, it has felt like we've barely kind of been able to do it and stay sane, because even though it seems like we only cover a certain amount of things on this channel, behind the scenes, it is a lot of prepping, it's a lot of reading, it's a lot of editing, it's a lot of other things.
On top of everything else that's like going on with like life and work, and it is just a lot, and we get it all the time from you guys, which is like awesome. Like, the burnout can happen. The burnout is real. We haven't gotten there yet, but I feel like if we were to put everything all in these next couple months with Bleach, with One Piece, with all the other volume 1 stuff we want to do, all the streams that we're doing, like it will just like get to the point where it will be a lot.
Yeah, it'll get to the point where it might be too much. And
yeah.
we are just kind of being proactive about that. Now, having said that, we do still, like I said, want to finish Soul Society and plan on finishing Soul Society. And after that, we have a couple ideas of other ways we can continue the series and still be caught up by the time the 1,000-Year Blood War arc anime comes out. So we're tossing around a couple ideas. Maybe in the future as well, we'll be able to grow our team and start reaching out to more people for help in terms of like editing and things like that. So that will maybe take some of the weight and the pressure off of us and will allow us a little more time to read and prep and do all these things to make these episodes the best and the greatest that they can be.
Yes, team. When we get that team up, because we do have a community, but we are more of a duo when it comes to the workload. So like, please just bear with us. Yeah. Like, we're not completely throwing it to the wayside. We want to read it just as much as you guys want us to read it, because we want to catch up and have that experience.
And that's the thing too. Be on the lookout, because in some capacity we might be reaching out soon and asking for someone to join our team in terms of like the editing and stuff. So just keep your eyes and ears peeled for that.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Now, on to Oshi no Ko. So, Mehgan, you did the research. Tell us who are the 2 heavy hitters that are behind this series.
Okay, so first up to bat, we got, this is the art and the story are done by 2 different people. The first one we have is the art by Yoko Yori Mengo. Which did Scum's Wish, Kuzu no Honkai, which I actually watched a couple seasons back.
Oh, wow.
It's an anime. I think it's a manga too, but yeah, it is a manga, and then they turn it into an anime. And the anime is like dark. Like, based off the art style, you wouldn't necessarily think that it would be that type of story, because looking at this, it is so like bright and like the eyes are big and everything's like super cute. But there is a lot going on in that. But that's a phenomenal anime that I liked. And then the story is Akasaka Aka. Am I saying that right? Akasaka
Tell them what
Aka.
they accomplished, what they did, the masterpiece they created.
The story is from Kaguya-sama.
Yes.
Which is like crazy. The comedy in Kaguya is like top tier, like always makes me laugh. So when I heard these 2 names, when I saw these 2 names, I knew like for sure this is going to be something that I would like enjoy.
Yeah, 100%. After hearing that, I mean, I was super sold. I didn't know what to expect going into it based off the art style. First of all, the art is phenomenal. And one thing that I did also learn about the mangaka is that apparently they started as an adult manga artist. That was how they sort of, got their start. The art style, the characters that I had seen seemed really interesting. It did seem like there was something under the surface or something more to this series, especially the way people had kind of recommended it and talked about it. However, I had no idea what that was going to be and what that was going to mean. And in terms of, the writer being the writer of Love is War, I truly feel like the writing in this manga is phenomenal. I feel like it is really, really superb. I feel like it's well written, extremely well written. And it was so fun for me to read. And we disagree a little bit here. And this is going to be maybe our vague, section. But to me, I would classify how I felt about this series as like, combining these 3 series, at least in the first volume. First of all, it's a better Act Age. It's like what Act Age was freaking trying to be. Yeah, was trying to be before the manga got revealed to be a freaking creep, dude.
Which I love. Not I love that he's a creep. I love the anime or manga that like do kind of shine a light on like the entertainment industry and in general,
and show it in like a real-ish way.
Yeah.
Not like an Act Age way.
No. I mean, the character was like so far-fetched, but what they were doing was kind of in the same vicinity. Like you have to go through this to get here. But this was way better.
Yeah, and the mangaka, the writer of Act Age, is the freak. The artist, great person, talented,
great person.
and hope they get more work.
Mm-hmm.
But it reminded me of like Mushoku Tensei meets like a better Act Age meets Big Little Lies, in a lot of ways. Just because of the interview sections that they had at the beginning of each chapter.
I love that little touch.
Yeah, so explain kind of what that is.
So at the beginning of every chapter, you get these little glimpses into the future. They're in the future because they're kind of talking past tense to
it's narrated, from like a past tense.
Yeah. So you kind of they're getting interviewed and being asked questions about our main character. And there are like later on little hints at the other two main characters that we meet, and you're just kind of like getting exposition from them to what's going to happen, and you kind of piece it together pretty quickly. But for me personally, I know I'm probably gonna get hate for this, I felt like it was so long,
and I respectfully and disrespectfully and completely disagree.
I just felt like it kind of like I think maybe it felt long because I knew what was inevitably going to happen, and it just felt like kind of not tedious, but like some moments I was like, this doesn't I don't know. I understand this is for the journey, but there was just some times where I was like, okay, let's get to the.
For me, the length and everything that happened, even in its slower moments, was completely 100% necessary to me. It really did feel like it kept moving, and the chapters flew by. The first volume consists of 10 chapters. And Mehgan had kind of told me that, for her experience, it felt like it was kind of, taking a long time to get through. So I kind of went in, and maybe that's why my opinion or my experience was affected and was the way it was because I went in expecting it to maybe be a longer sort of process, but was able to fly through it. So I don't know if I came in expecting, it to be like way more long than it was, so when I did read it, it just inevitably felt shorter no matter what. But I
don't know I don't know how to pinpoint it, because I do agree with you that everything that happened in the first volume like needed to happen. Like we needed to see all of those moments. I don't know if it was just the way I was reading it, if I was distracted, but like honestly it just felt a little long, and I found myself like, when something's gonna happen inevitably. I didn't know it was gonna happen in the first volume. But I knew it was going to happen, and I, at some points, was like, is it going to happen at the end of the first volume? Is it going to keep going on like this, where you just see years and years and years build up? Which I'm so happy it didn't. I'm so happy there was like a definite, like, this is the start of a new story.
Yeah, I'll say in the first volume, the story, its setting changes, and its tone maybe, and even sort of what you think this story is going to be about. Changes within the first volume, changes 3 times.
That's maybe why it felt so long, because it was just like
that's why it felt so short to me, because I was like, I was so reading, odd. I felt like I was like, boom, like the story is already changing so fast, and from the end of the first volume to the beginning, it has become 3 different stories. That's to me movement.
It is movement, but I felt maybe a little overwhelmed.
Okay.
And maybe that's why it felt a little long to me, because I was trying to get a grasp on one thing and then it changed. And I was like, okay, well, that's fine. Let's just counter that. And then I could counter it, and then something else would happen. I'd be like, okay, well, what's gonna, like, I was always like trying to guess, which is a great thing about a manga when you don't know what's going to happen and you are able to kind of come up with your own, like, okay, well, this might happen, like theories and stuff. But I just felt like I wasn't able to do that because like they were spoon feeding this, and this was happening, and this was happening, and this was, there's so many storylines happening at once, and I just couldn't get a grasp for it. And it felt like taking all this information in. Of course, like there were great highlights. I did really enjoy it. That's just my one, literally just my one note.
Yeah.
I just felt like it was like,
this is probably one of the most enjoyable volume 1 reads that I've had in a long time. Like it was.
And whose recommendation was it?
You guys,
the viewers. You guys did it.
It was such an incredibly well told story, interesting story, new story, fresh story. I feel like all these beats that oftentimes in other series don't feel like they happen for a very long time or don't happen at all, are happening immediately. So yes, I understand that it might feel jarring because some of these things you don't expect to happen. Some of these things that involve main characters in other stories are tiptoed around a lot more, or are alluded to or hinted at a lot more, but are drawn out. This is like boom, boom, boom. Like all of these things, like world changing, at least for these characters, things happen, right after the other. And it's not teasing you with it happening. And if it does, it's through those opening chapter sort of, one page or a couple panels where they're interviewing people in the future, and you're getting to see where they're at in the future versus where you've seen them in the manga currently, where you're at in their story. And so there's also mystery to it. And I think the mystery isn't super heavy handed at first. It's more vague, and obviously with a good mystery, the farther you go into it, you really start to be able to feel like you're putting the pieces together. And it something has to happen, but you don't know how or when it's going to happen. And you get to see these characters, and it's not just about like this current event that happened, but what about that event caused them to be in these situations, in these places, in these, I don't know, like environments, I guess. Like, I don't know. I absolutely loved this. I thought it was incredible. I think, for me, I wrote down some sort of key words that I think it is. I think it's very philosophical. I think that it's very introspective. And I think at times, like, it does sort of treat itself in its writing like a case study of humanity, of idols, of fandoms, of celebrity.
For sure. That's why I liked it so much. It was like such a realistic depiction of like this fake entertainment industry. Like everyone has to lie. Like that was the big theme. Like lies are what make people happy.
Big Little Lies.
Big Little Lies. So I really did like that. This was like such a great representation of like idol work in Japan. I mean, we see it here all the time in the States with like celebrities and stuff and like stalkers and all of this stuff. But I feel like here it is a different type of like obsession of these like young girls, not only, like grown women, like young, teenage girls that they're like fond after over all of these fans. And they are, sometimes in their contracts are not allowed to have significant others like at all. So her like, then we'll go into it. But this situation happened. I was like, this is the craziest situation that could ever happen to her, and how she was so unafraid. It was such an awesome contrast to versus like someone else who was in the industry to be like, damn, like my life's over. Like, I don't know. Like they would have maybe not gone with it. They would have done something else. They would have tried to figure out a way to get out of it. But she was so like willing to like change her life or have both. That's what I really liked about her character. Like the main character, like she's so different than what we usually see.
Yeah, I mean, she's a very likable character, and I think she has to be to serve, her purpose in this story. And I think that, I also felt like really drawn to her and drawn in by her. And I feel like it's crazy. All like you were mentioning the idol stuff. Like, I do think on top of that, there are things that I think all of us can relate to. I think all of us have, not the best home lives or family lives. Like everybody, no matter who they are, has something that they have to deal with. And oftentimes, that can affect your relationships going forward. And we see suffering from an extreme example of this, but we see how her past and who she was and who she's trying to be and what her goals are. We just see her just trying like hard and genuinely and honestly like giving it her all and accepting aspects of the industry, but also just not like, I don't know.
Bowing down to them.
Yeah, I mean, she really does like set her own terms, and she really is like, optimistically charges forward. And I really like this character a lot.
Yeah, which I like because like starting off, I mean, she is like kind of ramping up to success, but she's not all that successful. I mean, she does have a fan base, and it is easier for someone who's like super huge and super popular to, put these guidelines down. and kind of put their foot in the sand, like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do my thing. Where she's like not even there yet and she's already doing that. And I thought that was like super interesting. And the mystery behind everything that happens is just so like well done. Again, like I am like after the first volume, like that cliffhanger that we get is like so cool. And we even get like a glimpse of that ending in like the middle of the volume. You're like, who is this person? You figure out who it is and you're like, wow. Yeah. Like that's so cool.
That's what
both
I mean.
of them.
Yeah, that's what I mean. This manga I think struck a perfect balance of everything, of mystery, of drama, of like I said, like asking these philosophical questions. I mean, one of the first sentences is this story is a work of fiction, or should I say that everything in our world is fiction or something. It was just like, oh damn, this is the kind of story this is the kind of story I'm getting into right now. And I think, like I said, it perfectly balances all that. And it's not the funniest manga in the world, but there are comedic aspects of it that do play very well and hit. And I think that this like manga for me, struck that balance of like doing everything it wanted to do and like somewhat flawlessly. I think that a lot of times when we see other stories try to tackle these things, we've talked about and have issue with tropes that arise. And this manga felt like it didn't run from those tropes, but it kind of confronted them head on and, handled them, I think, more tastefully. I didn't really have like a problem with anything.
No. Like it was pretty like solid. Like there was nothing that I was expecting something to happen. When the big reveal happened, I was like, oh great. And there's a couple lines here and there I'm like, okay, kind of sus, but it was like fine. It was handled really well, and it became more of like the relationship between the characters is like definitely more of a respect thing, which I liked. Like the more you got to know this person behind this image that you think that they are, the more you're able to like respect them as like a human being, which I do think is like a theme too, because they're not seen as like human beings, they're seen as just like props and dolls.
Well, I just want to say that I highly recommend this manga, and this is the reason I'm saying this here and now is because I think this is the point in our conversation where we are going to go into more plot specific details a little bit more that only include the first volume, but I do think this is a series you can enjoy and might even be sold on more after hearing the hook that occurs at the end of the first chapter. However, if you do want to keep that experience and have it on your own for yourself, then this is probably the point where that might get spoiled for you. But is there anything else you want to say, before we get there? And I just want to say too, I don't think that, saying exactly what happens, because it is just in the first chapter. I mean, it does set the tone for the rest of the series, is going to ruin anything. But I still do think that I can also recognize that I had a very intense and maybe more enjoyable experience because I had no idea what was coming and what was going to happen.
Same. Yeah, I would definitely like really recommend this if you're a fan of like, I guess like entertainment, like anime and manga. Like I don't really have, this doesn't really have like a, like a umbrella of a genre, but
more than just that too.
I was starting off on that. Oh yeah. Yeah, it was like an umbrella of that. And if you like comedy, I mean, it's not like super heavy in the comedy, but if you do like, the artist from Scum's Wish, then you'll definitely like this because the art is like phenomenal and it just draws you in, and then it kind of just sells everything on its own.
Yeah, and it's hard to really, recommend it based on genre, because even maybe insinuating that it might fit into other genres is spoilery. But yeah, I do think that it is a wonderful mystery, great characters. Again, and it really does tell a very unique and interesting story that does involve people in the entertainment industry, but it involves like just drama and mystery. And again, like these like kind of like philosophical questions. So I highly recommend it. I think Mehgan recommends it. maybe not as highly as because I'm just like passionately recommending it.
I liked it. I didn't like.
It's even the way you said it.
Okay,
right
I'm
now.
not obsessed with it like you are.
I'm obsessed.
But I really did like it, and I want after the first volume, like cliffhanger. Like I definitely want to see what happens, and I want to continue to read it. But
let's get into the spoilery discussion. Again, this is exactly specifically, I guess I should say, the events that happen at the end of chapter 1. We're going to go through it a little beat by beat. And it's a story that opens up with a doctor. Okay, a doctor in a small town, right? And this doctor, he's a very, I would say, younger doctor, you know, and he's he already, you know, in terms of first chapters, I think this first chapter nails everything. It introduces you to all the characters that you need to be introduced to with a twist, and the way in which they show their character and who they are through their actions is, I think, so well done. It opens on this doctor who's a young doctor, which means he has to be very smart and good at what he does. But it doesn't really necessarily tell you that. And he's sitting in a patient's room watching an idol performance, which is already hilarious and makes you wonder what this character is about. Is he going to be this pervy guy, older guy who obsesses over young idols? You know, when questioned about it by like one of the other nurses, he ends up telling her this very heartfelt story about, you know, him having a patient who was, I'm assuming, you know, diagnosed with cancer or some terminal illness. And this idol group and this specific idol, was her idol. It was her favorite person in the world, someone who she aspired to be but never could be because of her illness, right? But when she ultimately passes away, he says that he sort of continues to watch this idol that she told him all about. He knew nothing about.
Which is like so funny because he is talking to that nurse and she's like, you're just a pervert. Like you can't make any excuse. And then he goes, no, like it was for her. Like I want to continue to cheer her on because I feel like I'm cheering, you know, my old patient on. She's like, okay, but if she asked you out, would you say yeah?
Yeah.
And then he's like, I gotta go. I'm like,
But it's funny because this whole emotional backstory is shown, and then she undercuts it. You know, he's kind of like on the top of a building overlooking.
Yeah, they're on like a top of like classic rooftop like monologue and looking up at the stars. Like, I did it for her. I did it for my old patient. He's like, okay, so you're still just.
But I love that it was immediately this like super sentimental moment was undercut by the nurse, and she was like, yeah, but let's be honest about why you really continue to watch this girl. And he's like, no, I swear to God.
No, it's for her.
And I, you know, part of me, you know, really does believe him that I think part of it is for her. And, you know, he's reminded of her when he watches this idol. But I think, you know, he just also started to actually like her. But it's just a very touching moment. And, you know, this patient talked about, you know, wanting to be even reincarnated. She was so obsessed with this idol that she talked about, you know, I want to be, you know, reincarnated. She asks him about being a kid of celebrity and what that would be like. And he's like, I don't really know. And I'm a doctor. I don't really think like that and think about those things.
It's like right when that moment was said, I kind of was like, okay. And it's not the first time they said it. They said it like probably like 3 times before it actually happened. So I was like, okay, I kind of know. You had no idea.
I had no idea, and if I thought anything was going to happen, it was going to be with her. With the patient.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. And then I found out what was going to conspire and happen, and I was like, oh, for sure.
Right.
Which is not bad. I mean, they handled it really well. It could have been a disaster. It could have been like, I mean, this is something that only can happen in like anime and manga. Like the most ultimate anime and manga thing that happens. Well, yeah. You're like, what?
I mean, I thought it was lovely. And yeah, so in order to not have to tiptoe, we'll try to get through the first chapter because that's when, you know, the gates will be a lot more open.
Yes. So yeah. So like pretty much he gets like a call or a patient comes in and it is a young girl and she is pregnant and this other man is with her, and he's like, oh, she's X amount of weeks or whatever. She looks young. And then he starts reading her file, and then she like kind of looks up, and who is it?
None other than the idol.
The idol. She's pregnant.
She's pregnant, and immediately you're like, what? And there is even this mystery around who the father is, because, the doctor kind of walks out to kind of gather his thoughts, like, oh my God, that's I. And when he's in the hallway, he's eavesdropping on the conversation she's having with her manager, her guardian, who is there. And she's saying, like, he's telling her, like, who did this? Like, who got you pregnant? And she's like, I'm not going to tell you. Like,
yeah, she does that cute thing. She's like, not telling.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, she's funny.
And he's like, well, this is going to ruin your image. If the public finds out that an idol of your age and your status is pregnant and has kids, then it's going to ruin your image. You're going to lose fans. You're going to really have no hope of achieving this goal and this dream, which is also why they needed to go to this remote sort of, town to consult this doctor instead of going to a doctor in the city. They wanted to get as far away from everybody as possible. And so he kind of gathers his thoughts, and he decides that, of course, he's going to become her doctor and, whatever. And he's going to do it for his patient, and he's going to do it for himself, I guess, too. And he doesn't really want to be a fan. He is, but he also, I think over the course of, there's a couple of, montage panels of him sort of taking care of her through her pregnancy, which was another reason I felt like this story really moved. It didn't linger on once he made the decision to be her doctor and deliver her child at this point in the story. It kind of just, sped through the weeks, and there was like a panel that represented, certain weeks. And by the end of it, he said that, she isn't exactly the picture perfect person that she is on TV, but that she still is a really good person, because her manager gives her an ultimatum and says, like, look, well, if you do end up having these babies, because obviously abortion is kind of like hinted at a little bit, there's this option A and option B. And if you choose option B, because option A is literally, starts with an A, then then your chances of becoming an idol, even if we keep it in secret, will be significantly lower because of all the things that come along with it. And we don't know if we're going to be able to keep it a secret. But she says that it's been her dream to always have a family, and it's something that she really wants and is really willing to work for.
Well, it's like, I mean, like, if it happens now, like, what's the difference between it happening now versus like 6 years from now? Like, she's always going to be in that position where it's always going to be like, if you do this, you're going to lose fans. Or worst case scenario, I mean, like.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the idea, though, is that hopefully in maybe 6 years, she'll be at a level of fame where it won't matter as much, because she'll have more fans and more freedom and more, like, quote unquote power within the entertainment industry. But here it's like more important than ever, because she's on the come up. She hasn't established herself yet.
Yeah, for sure.
So he does end up realizing, the doctor ends up realizing that she is a good person, and, really has like a touching kind of moment with her. And,
which
really,
was beautifully drawn.
Yeah.
Like, they're on the rooftop again, and the stars are like shining. She's like, I've never seen this in Tokyo. Like, this is awesome. And he goes, that way you came out here, obviously, to see me instead of a doctor out there, because you want to keep it a secret. And they just kind of have like a really nice moment, and it's like beautifully drawn. I mean, everything she does she's just so cute, and she's so pretty.
Yeah, because he himself is a fan, and so he's himself coming to terms with her being pregnant from another man and like having kids, and he's decided, like, I don't care about all this stuff. Like, this is her dream. I want to support her, and I want to support. I feel like my patient would have wanted to support her too in anything that she wants to do. So it's revealed through her ultrasound that she's having twins, and at the same time, the doctor's sort of doing something in the lobby, and he kind of sees and overhears a conversation and sees on the TV that another comedian and another idol are pregnant. And have announced that they're having a baby. And two people in the waiting room make a comment like, man, if I die now, or if I, unalive myself now, then I might be just in time to, like, be reincarnated as their baby.
And that's when I was like, for sure. I didn't think it was going to happen, I thought if for sure she's having one baby, it would be just the kid.
Right.
Yeah,
same.
And I was like, oh no. And even he goes, I'm going to unalive myself. And I want to be their kid. The guy's like, what? Do you really talk like that?
Yeah,
there's little subtle moments that are like so hilarious.
Yeah.
Because the writing's so well done.
Yeah. And it's like you said, it's subtle. It's not like in your face, but it is funny. It is very funny.
Yeah. Just like side remarks that are just like added. Really, really good stuff.
So we get to a point now where Ai's going to have her babies and she's about to deliver. And the doctor says, okay, well, everything's set up. You know, they talked about cesareans and they talked about all these natural births. They talked about all these things. Everything's set up. You're in the hands of the hospital now. If you ever need anything, call me. And she's like, I don't care. Even if I get back to the city and anything happens, I want you to be my doctor always. I just feel connected and close to you. Like you understand me and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, of course, I'd love that. And he's kind of like, walking home. And on his way out of the hospital, he, passes by a creepy stalker looking guy in a hoodie and
black hoodie. Yeah. In the middle of the night,
And he's like, where's Hoshino Ai's room? And he's like, how do you know her full name? And
he should have said that. He should have just been like, who are you talking about?
Exactly.
Yeah, he messed up for sure.
And he's like, who are you? And the person's like, don't worry about it. And blah,
how do you know
blah,
she's
blah.
staying at this hospital? Like, dude, do not go that far.
I mean, he's a doctor, not a detective.
That's true. He's a doctor, not a smart person with common sense.
He's got book smarts, but he's not street smart. All that time in school.
Yeah, all that time in school, you're not on the streets.
Yeah, you're not on the streets, dude. All that time freaking being in bodies, you're not in the streets.
Being in bodies.
Being in bodies. Right.
Yeah. Or you can
also sounds kind of bad.
It does sound bad. Being in bodies. I'm just gonna make it surgery. Being in bodies. You're not getting bodied like on the streets.
There we go. Thank you, really, for pulling that out. So this guy ends up following him home, or like following him, and he's like on his phone. The doctor's on his phone, and he's like, I wonder if I is okay. I wonder if everything is all right. And you just see him get hit in the back of the head. This like stalker hit him in the back of the head, and then he kind of like comes to, and he's like, where am I? Like, what time is it? Like, why is everything dark? Like, I can't see. And the panel, there's a huge panel that reveals that guy freaking killed him and murdered him.
Wait, that was crazy. I was not expecting it to
at all
get dark like that.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, something he might, I don't know. I figured it would happen, but not like that.
I didn't even figure it would happen. I thought the girl, like you said, the girl's soul was going to go into the baby, not the doctor's.
Well, it was like he had this kind of moment where he kind of realized, like, once, that's why he was walking into his house, he kind of realizes, like, damn, I won't have any connection with her now.
Yeah.
Like, we're completely cut off. Like, even if I am her doctor, it won't be the same. Like, I won't see her every other day. I'll see her on camera or whatever, see her life through that lens instead of actually, like, being with her. And he kind of gets, like, upset about it. And I think just, like, thinking of that cosmic gumbo.
Yeah.
And he's just on the ground, like, has his head against the wall, just completely, like,
yeah, and I didn't even at first I didn't even think that hit was enough to kill him, but once it's revealed, it's like, oh wow, yeah, he got straight up murdered,
yeah,
and he's born into he's reincarnated. There's like one panel or two panel, which I like that it doesn't linger here too long, but there even is one panel of him like in the quote unquote afterlife, and then him being kind of sent or put into the body of this idol's child. And the catch is with a lot of things like this, reincarnation stories like this, is that he has all of his memories from when he was a doctor, so he remembers everything about who he is and was. He doesn't necessarily remember like details about how he died leading up to that moment, but he remembers everything.
I mean, which would be such a clutch. It'd be so clutch to be reincarnated as a child, know everything. You are an adult in a child's body.
Yeah, for sure.
Your life's set.
I mean,
like you can do, if you're already a doctor,
yeah,
like you can go to school and ace everything.
Well,
and then become a doctor at freaking 9 years old.
But I love what this story did, even even sometimes I feel like, look, I love isekai. I'm not the biggest isekai head, and I love that this series kind of did to me do a lot of things better than I felt like Mushoku Tensei did. Although giving Mushoku Tensei the credit for being one of the original isekais, like I do still think that in a modern way of telling this kind of story, that Oshi no Ko does a better job of handling some of these things. I like how, when he came back, he said, yeah, I mean, I do got to solve the mystery of like my murder. I really do. I don't really know who did it and if they're still out there. And there's even a point where he's like, and it's been a long time and they haven't found my body.
That moment was crazy because he's just on a smartphone as like a baby. And he goes, something like more concerning, like my body still not, still hasn't been found, because he's like looking up key terms like body found in the town that he lived in or whatever. But I was like, oh,
but he's also like,
sinister.
He's also like, I got my whole life. Like I can take a year, 2 years to just really lean into this whole baby thing and take it easy.
Oh yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
You have at least a year or two where you just don't have to do shit.
Yeah. That was so cool to just see him kind of like
go
embrace it and just be like, I'm going to let people take care of me because I can. And this is awesome.
I have to. And because I can't do things by myself. He can't do things by himself, but like he can't be suspicious. Like he says like these suspicious twins, because it's not only him that gets reincarnated. Someone else gets reincarnated too.
Yeah,
he has a baby sister and her name is Ruby and she's so freaking cute. I mean, they're both so cute, but his name's like Aquamarine and he's like, okay, Ruby sounds better than my name. What the fuck?
And his sister is also a reincarnated soul too. So I love that this is what and I understand that there's more to Mushoku Tensei. I get it. You got me. Okay. But
you got me.
This is what I kind of was hoping it was gonna lean more into, because I don't know if it's the case with Mushoku Tensei specifically or in other reincarnated type of stories, but it's not just mentally that they have all their memories and that they have, the same sort of wits about them that they did. Like they can get up and walk around and they're like baby geniuses. And like freaking little boss babies, dude. And
they are boss babies. They literally are boss babies.
And I loved that about this, because they have to actively pretend to be babies, like they can't talk, like they can't walk. And that lends itself to so much humor.
It's like Rugrats.
Yeah, it's like Rugrats. It is. And it's funny that his twin sister isn't just another baby. It's funny that she is also a reincarnated soul.
Who's a super fan.
Who's also a super fan.
Yeah, they're both super fans.
And in terms of this person's identity, we don't know who they are. And because they are in the body of a baby, they can say like that they were anything and, lie about their identity, lie about their gender, even lie about. So that ends up lending itself to like very funny comedic moments throughout as well.
Yeah, she's like completely shameless. He has a little bit of shit. He still like loves her. And I think he spent more time with her, as a person versus his sister, because his sister is just completely like head over heels for like everything. I mean, she's like he's leaning into the baby thing just to be relaxed. She's like leaning to the baby thing because she's like, this is my mom now. Like, this is my everything that's taking care of me. Like, this is the best.
Yeah.
And they're just so funny.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many great moments of them just being like fans and him watching on TV. And she's like, you didn't wake me up. It's live. Why didn't you wake me up? And she's like freaking out. And there's so many moments like that throughout. It's just, they're both like super fans who are her kids now.
Yeah, and
it just lends itself to those
they
opportunities.
Have to be kept a secret.
Yeah.
And there's a couple moments that I kind of want to get to, because I do want to spend some time at the end, a little more time at the end. And that will be probably a second spoiler warning. So if you don't mind, knowing the reveal of the first chapter, then maybe you also, or maybe you will mind knowing the very end of the first volume, because again, it changes again. But to get through some of those events, like Ai's, on her comeback tour now, like she's trying to really rise through the ranks of being an idol, and she's working hard. She's going to dance, choreography lessons, vocal lessons. Like she's going on acting auditions. She's doing a lot. And it's funny because her managers wife who only reveals that she only married him because she thought she was gonna, be around celebrities and live this like glamorous life, is now in charge of babysitting them. And there's a moment towards the beginning where the wife is getting so fed up with this being her job that she's like, well, this is juicy information, actually. And I could probably sell this information. The fact that she has twins to the paparazzi, and they'll, give me some money and I can leave this dude and be whatever.
And she's so unhinged about it. She's like, if I just take a picture of these kids. And of course, they hear everything she's saying. They understand English. So they're like, we have to stop her. This cannot go on. What do we have to kill her. And he's like, okay, calm down. Yeah. Ruby's like, we have to kill her. How do we kill her? Yeah. She goes like completely off the rails.
And even their solution is so funny. I mean, they basically pretend that they are possessed by these spirits of...
They're like messengers of God.
Yeah. And so, Ruby's sitting on the table and she reveals to the adult that she can talk. And she's like, we are the children of I, like messengers of God. She is destined for greatness, and we are like, this whole thing. And their logic is to like, well, we need to tell. It'd be nice to have an adult on our side. It'd be nice to have someone that we don't always have to fake it around. And so, Aqua tries his hand at it and fails, and Ruby ends up really selling it. Which
like literally crossing her little baby feet and being like, I am what you call God.
Yeah.
And then the lady's like, what?
Yeah, and she
and
believes
she sells it. And she goes like, if you defy us, you will die. And then it's just like the little moment after that, like that's such a she goes, that's so specific.
Yeah, or she's like, and if you do help us, then we can promise you, you'll be surrounded by hot celebrities for the rest of your life or something.
Hot guys. She's like, yes, okay, I'll do it.
So now they got this person on their side who they can kind of talk and walk around, and they go to various like events and concerts, and they really root for I, and that's really fun to see too.
Yeah, I loved that moment specifically because it was like a turning point for I's career for sure, because she kept getting comments that like she was kind of being fake, and they could tell that she wasn't really enjoying it. It's just like fake idol stuff, which is like totally what she says that she's doing. She's just putting on a smile and like hoping people just like her for her and not like being genuine about it. And people do that. It's like, obviously people can tell, like people, not everyone's dumb. So she kind of just like leaning into this like idol thing. If I'm doing whatever they say I'm going to do, then I'll be liked and, respected. But her kids end up coming to the concert. And another thing too, they have these light sticks and they're so good at it because they're obviously fans and they have gone to these events before. And they're just literally like, I forget what it's called. Dang it, I forgot. But they're like literally like cheering her on. And then her like real smile comes out.
Well, yeah, and that's what I loved about that chapter. I think that's what I'm talking about. The more of like introspective, philosophical side of it. Like it does show you also the two kids don't become the main characters. Like you could classify them as main characters, but I is still very much a presence in this, first volume. Yeah, and the focus sort of shifts to that chapter. Is I think something along the lines of it's a fan translation I think, but it's called like how to smile or something like that, or what is a real smile, something. But it's basically her like working her ass off to try to like be a good mom, which she's not great at, to like go to these dance lessons, do all these things. And then at the end of one of her like dance choreography lessons that she's been doing all day, she pulls up like the equivalent to Twitter. She's like, I just want to see what people are saying about me. And there's a comment there that says like, I's smile isn't good or isn't bad. It just looks too professional. It looks too calculated, blah, 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 blah. And we get to see how that affects her and how she says, well, like, isn't that what you want? Isn't that what idols are supposed to be? Mm-hmm. Idols are supposed to be, professional and this and this and that. Like I've studied, minute muscle movements in the mirror. Like
everything's calculated. Every movement, every hand signal, every smile, like it is all fabricated because it's like what I need to do to go forward in
to
this industry.
Sell this image.
Yeah.
And so that really gets to her. It really does get to her. And that like frustration and just how, a comment like that can really get to you. And you do feel like you're, doing all of these things and putting in all of this work, and to have someone on the other end of a screen just say like, yeah, it's to this or it's to that. It's like, do this or do that. It's
We're
like,
strangers to that.
Yeah, no, I mean,
feeling.
And that's why I think I maybe empathized with her more than maybe some people. I don't know, but to see her then at the concert. And when she realized that her kids had come there, obviously she's not revealing that they're her kids. They're pretending to be somebody else's kids. But when she sees them in the audience and she lights up and she smiles, like the equivalent to Twitter goes crazy and starts saying like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, who is this girl? Like, wow, what a genuine smile, real smile, you know, this, that.
And I love her personality too, because she is like ditzy for sure,
Yeah.
but she definitely is calculating and wants to produce like this image product of herself. So she goes, oh, you like that? Okay, now I know what you like.
Yeah.
And she can now use that. And we see that because she starts to gain more and more popularity as the story continues. And the next couple chapters I was obsessed with going forward, because we do see a little time skip where the kids are a little older and they go on a set with Ai because she is popular. It's first time on like a drama. When we meet this director character who is also very funny, and Aquamarine kind of lets it slip a little bit, which is like the best thing ever.
Yeah, he kind of starts rambling on because he's invited to this set, and then he's like, you know, the director tells him, and again, just to kind of get through at least like the beginning of the chapters, like the director's at the beginning of that chapter, but in the future, and he's, you know, promoting a movie about an idol. And, you know, he's very upset and he's very angry and he's very jaded and maybe even very cynical. And he's like, this movie is for Ai, and like all these things. And you really just wonder, like, this is not the version of that character that you meet. And then you wonder what this movie was about and what, you know, happened to Ai. Did she get super successful? Did something tragic or something, you know, great happen to her? Like, what was this movie about? But anyway, when we meet him, you know, he is very much like, you know, the kids are pretending to be the manager's kids. So he's like, no kids on the set.
Which is justified.
Yeah, and it's like, if you guys cry, then you're out of here, you know? And that's when Aqua's like, no. Like, as like a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old.
No, sir, we will not cry. We are so sorry for the inconvenience.
Thank you for the opportunity.
We will thank you for the opportunity. Ai's going to be great. She's going to produce a wonderful product. And the guy's like, this baby can talk.
Yeah. And he's like, you should act. And he's like, no, my sister Ruby should act.
And he's still the funniest thing, the absurdity is like this 2-year-old's like talking like this.
Yeah.
And they're just having like a conversation.
Well, because it's funny.
Nothing wrong
it's funny
with it.
because the director's like, how is this even possible? And then Aqua's like, I watch a lot of YouTube. I mean, I'm in front of a tablet. I watch a lot of YouTube. And he's like, oh my God, this generation is so progressive. Or so,
this progressive generation.
But and so it ends up like happening where like, again, like it feels, you know, bad to kind of speed through all of this, but for the sake of time, like, and we can linger wherever you want to linger too. But, you know, Ai ends up getting cut out for the majority of this movie. And it's because she's too cute. She's not the best actor, but this is where the story kind of becomes a better act age, because the director's even saying like, well, look, there are 3 types of actors. There's the up and comers, there's the strong, you know, usually like supporting actress, and then there's the star who has to be the ABC, and they have to be blah, blah, blah. Just, you know, really what I would consider to be probably not far from the truth.
No,
you know,
definitely not.
And Ai ends up getting cut from a lot of the movie, not because her acting was bad. I mean, her acting wasn't great, but it wasn't bad, but because the person that they are trying to push as this star was not as
shining as brightly as
just wasn't as cute as she was.
Yeah.
And they're like, we just can't have this cuter girl in the background. It's going to make this star look less cute. So we had to cut her. And Aqua kind of calls the director, and he's like,
how dare you?
Yeah, this is unacceptable. And he's like, well, I got a deal for you. He's like, I'll make you a deal. Like, I'll put her in my next movie, but the catch is like, you have to be in it too. And he's like, make my sister be in it. He's like, no, the deal is you. And he's like, all right, let's do it. I gets a movie deal.
She gets a movie deal, and this part was so great. And you know, he goes on set, and he is supposed to be like this, like scary little
like
kid.
One of the kids from The Shining.
Yeah, like a Shining type, with this other little girl who's like a little older than him, that is like a child actress, and she's just kind of, you know, a brat, obviously. Like, if you don't do this, like, you better not outshine me, blah, blah, blah. And she delivers her lines, and then he is like really thinking about like the director and how he communicated with him for the part. And it is like, a good director is good communication, like completely. So that like was like so awesome to see. They could have easily just done it and been like, that was great. That was awesome. You're phenomenal. But it was just like, they made it a point to show how he was able to like this quickly, like pick up on what the director wanted and was able to display that. And he didn't say one line, or he said one line and then that's it. And then the director's like, I didn't even ask you to do that, and you did it. You're amazing.
Well, yeah, they gave so much time to this and the behind the scenes of this, and I loved that too. I love that they really went in depth with this process, and like, yeah, being a good director, not just being about communication on the director's side, but the actor communicating as well, and not necessarily communicating through acting, but communicating through like making informed and logical choices based on your knowledge of that director. And so like you get to see kind of Aqua process, like he's working with this real child prodigy actor, and is kind of afraid and nervous, and doesn't necessarily want to be outshined, and has this moment of fear, realizing that he can't even act. But then he starts to really think about everything and look at everything and piece together everything, and logically comes to the conclusion that like, yeah, I mean, this actor hired me after, our conversation. Like, this is what this actor or this director likes about me. So logically, they don't want me to act. They don't want me to be scary. And then there's this like huge funny reveal. He's like, what he's basically saying is I don't have to act at all. I just have to be myself. And then this huge reveal is like, because apparently I'm scary enough, like just
which
me
is
being me
true.
is scary.
Like this 2-year-old that could just talk up a storm. Like obviously something's not right here.
Yeah.
Like you are scary. I would be scared if a baby was talking to me like that. I'd be like,
I love the Baby Geniuses movie.
You do.
And
Boss Baby
1 and Boss Baby 2, it's okay. That feels like the longest thing I've ever seen in my life. But I'm a sucker.
For a smart baby.
Well, for a smart baby, I'd like to think of all kinds of adventures that we would go on together, Like I feel like we get into a lot of stuff, I just think it'd make a great film. And
you want a smart baby as a sidekick?
As like a sidekick, yeah.
I want a smart animal as a sidekick.
I want a smart baby.
I'd rather have a...
Yeah, I know you would. And that's the difference between me and you.
It's just so crazy when you say something like that.
But I absolutely love this dude because like with Act Age, it's like, my freaking talent is that I can't help but be in the movie. I'm too in the movie because I'm actually
in the movie, man.
Yeah, like I'm supposed to play a wolf. I actually am a wolf, and then I start biting everybody on set, and it's like, but I still get, everybody hates me and is mad at me, and I've halted production, but I still get hired again. It's like bullshit. But this was like actually really well done and really cool. That kind of scene happens, and it kind of leads us into towards the end of because this was taking place over the course of a couple chapters.
Yeah. They kind of like grow up steadily, slowly but surely, and then they get to go to school. And at this point, I don't know if we said, but the manager's wife is pretty much pretending to be these kids' moms. Mom.
Yeah.
These kids' mom.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and we get to see the manager later. We get to see this other babysitter later. We get to see all these another actor later who has like a crazy at the beginning. These are all sprinkled at the beginning of each chapter. And this actor is saying that they don't care about like their performance. Like their performance is all about like their acting is they act for revenge or something crazy. And just all these really cool moments with all these characters, and again to see where they're at now. There's that little time skip, and then the shift kind of focuses to I again, and it becomes about a mystery again because I is sort of sneaking away, and she's calling
her baby
daddy,
Mm-hmm.
and
baby daddy,
and she's not supposed to be doing that.
No.
And she's not supposed to be doing that at this critical of a time in her career. But also she views it as like, this is a critical time in like our children's life.
Yeah, but now you call him like...
Well, maybe she's just like, I don't know. I mean, she's just putting feelers out. I don't agree. Like, but I think she's not doing it for him. Like she's doing it for the kids, like the kids, like maybe she just wants her kids to like meet their dad,
Mm.
you know, or like know who their dad is. Cause we find out grew up with no parents.
And
at
the
all.
kids are kind of asking questions now that they're able to like talk and it be like fine. So they are just like, they even have that moment where they're like, oh, how did, where's dad? Like, how is dad in the picture? And Ruby's like, no, we were born from virgin conception. Like, that's obviously what happened.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I should probably clear this up before they get the wrong ideas
Yeah.
of how they were.
Yeah. And you
Created.
know, we kind of do feel like I said she's not trying to reconnect, that she really is doing it, but we do something about it. From me, at least, I got the sense that she was trying to reconnect a little bit. Like she was trying to, see this person again, but it's all shady. I think she takes the call in a phone booth. Like she doesn't tell anybody about the call, and we have no idea who this person is, but this person apparently, still has no interest in seeing their kids. And we get a little more, backstory on I and how she didn't have parents. And that orphan story was, because she's an orphan, is one of the saddest orphan stories I've ever heard. Because she talks about like, everybody kind of having these dark pasts and, whatever. And how with her, like her father was never really in the picture. And her mother, she was raised by, her mother.
Mm-hmm.
And her mother was, I think, like an abuser and like, I think a drug addict as well. And she got taken from her mom so that her mom could go to like rehab and rehabilitate and, get better.
I think she went to prison
Or maybe even prison
rehab,
too.
prison, whatever. And then
She's like, yeah, she got back. She got healed. She got released and she never came back for me. Like that was crazy.
Yeah. Because usually they both die or, you have like, yeah, they're abandoned. But it was like literally she made an effort to not go get I back.
Yeah. And this whole chapter is about how like she was approached by her manager at Starbucks and or scouted at Starbucks or Starbucks, if you want to get, copyright free.
Yeah. Usually it's around that
Yeah.
ballpark.
And how she thought she could scare him off by telling him all this darkness within her, telling him that like, she says, because I never had parents and because like I never knew what love was, like it's impossible for me to genuinely love anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I've tried, I've tried, but I just can't. Like I just don't have that feeling. I'm just not wired that way. And someone like that can never become an idol. And she said that to kind of scare him away, but he kind of tells her like, I think you're just saying that. I think that there is a part of you, like there is a part of everybody that wants to be loved and wants to experience love. You're just afraid of it because you don't know how to do it or what it feels like. And she kind of then like vows like, I'm going to become an idol and I'm going to, because there's also this conversation about faking and lies and like, he's like, I think that might work to your benefit. Like being, she's like,
yeah, that was so funny. She goes like, I can't do it. So it's all going to be just a lie. He goes, that's perfect.
Yeah.
If you could just do that,
yeah,
you can be successful. She's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And he tells her too that like, you don't have to be any of these things, that you just have to kind of be what this picture perfect thing that these people want you to be. And she kind of vows like her reason for, and then he says to her like, and you might actually like trick yourself into like believing it. And so that's what really makes her go through with it, because she says that although she's never loved anybody and she is incapable to her of feeling love and doesn't know how to receive it or give it, that every time she tells her fans that she loves them, she's telling them that, hoping that she can lie herself into like believing it. Mm-hmm. She says it wanting to believe it. And she keeps going through all these motions, hoping that she'll stumble upon love and realize it and feel it. But the big reveal of all this, and that was such an emotional chapter for me. But the big thing is that she says that every time she tells her fans that she loves them, there is this like feeling of like, it's not true yet. It's
Mm-hmm.
not true yet. It's not true yet. And she says, so that's why to this day, and keep in mind, like Aqua and Ruby are like, 5, 6 years old at this point. And she's like, that's why to this day, like I still haven't told my children that I love them, because I'm afraid. And this is like such an amazingly well-written series. She's like, because I'm afraid that I'm going to say that I love them And I'm going to have that same feeling I have when I tell my fans that I love them. That feeling of that it's not real yet, that these are just words, not a feeling. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm too scared to find out. And I was just like, God damn, I
love you.
Yeah.
I think means I love you in Japanese.
Really?
I think so, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I do love her. I do love her. I mean, she's like such a, I mean, I empathize with her. I just, I really like connected to her character a lot. And makes it all the crazier.
I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, I think that this is your second spoiler warning of the episode if you're still here, because now we will reveal the end of the first volume, which does, again, set the tone for the manga going forward from this point. And who knows if it's going to change again.
If you don't want it all to be spoiled, go. You
said that like you had something set up.
I was thinking, you can go to the Wonder Circle.
Yeah. Definitely just skip ahead to the Wonder Circle.
Yeah.
Don't back out of the episode.
You're
already too far
here.
in.
Just go to the Wonder Circle. It's always a good time, you know.
It's a great time. You're already like, I don't know, X amount of minutes in. You've already invested your time. It's an investment now. Like you can't like cash out. You gotta see it through.
Just keep stocking it up.
Exactly. Okay. Well, Mehgan, do you want to tell? So last warning, 3, 2, 1. Mehgan, do you want to tell people what happens at the end of the first volume?
So we pretty much know that the stalker guy has kind of been in the picture for a little bit. We've seen him at the hospital killing the doctor. We've seen, or maybe it wasn't him, we don't know yet, but we've seen him, a guy in a black hoodie, multiple times. He does know what the situation is with Ai, how she's had babies and all this stuff, because we see him on a computer later being like, Ai, how dare you do this to me? Like, you know, the twins or whatever. And it's like her 19th birthday. She's going to be 20 soon, which is a big deal.
Well, this is on her 20th birthday. This is on the day. This happens on the day she turns 20.
20, yeah. You can.
What?
You can say the reveal.
You want me to say it? Why?
Just say it.
So yeah, the stalker shows up at her door on her 20th birthday. And right after she's having all of these sort of like very introspective thoughts about, you know, who she is and wanting to be something that she's not, and trying to actively work towards being a good mother, being a good idol, being a good human, being a good person, being a hard worker. And, you know, this stalker guy shows up who, like you said, has been in the picture, and who they still haven't found the doctor's body, by the way, which is another thing that they tease that I hope they go more into later. He shows up at the door with a bouquet of roses. And then behind the bouquet of roses, we see a knife, and he just, you know, shanks the shit out of Ai. And what the most heartbreaking thing about it was, like, I think it was such a good scene.
It was such a good scene, and I'm a sucker for when stories do this, where we have this vengeful person taking out revenge on someone, or, you know, whatever the case may be, and then it completely turning around for that character and showing them, like, your revenge is not real because they were not in the wrong the whole entire time. I mean, she wasn't wrong in general, but there is that like little glimmer of like, dude, if you only knew, you probably would not have done this.
Well, they got caught up in the illusion of it all and weren't willing to accept this person as a real human being. And it's so heartbreaking, you know, because it happens. But at the same time, he's like, you liar, like you whore, like you have kids, you lied to his fans, you probably laughed at us and didn't give a fuck about us and blah, 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 blah. And she, you know, basically says like, you know, I did lie. She's like, I did lie. And, you know, every time I smiled, it was a lie. And every time I said I loved you, it was a lie. But it was a lie that I told genuinely from the bottom of my heart, like hoping one day to be true. Like I said it, every time I said it, I wanted it to be true so badly.
Yeah, she's literally like explaining herself to this person who just stabbed her.
Yeah.
And she's bleeding out. Aquamarine is like standing right there. And then she notices him. She like recognizes him and she goes, oh, you're the guy who comes to all of the like meet and greets. I've definitely met you before. I still have that gift that you gave me. It's on
he says like, you probably don't even know who I am.
Yeah. And it's like, I know you.
Yeah.
Because I have your gift that you gave me on my entertainment. I say I love it to this day. And then that's when it like completely flips and he's like, no. Like, what did I just do?
Yeah. Because he sees it, sitting right there. And she does remember his name. And she is trying. And she is, not this person that he's like built her up to be in his mind. And yeah, he kind of, that kind of shakes him. And he comes to terms with what he did. And he kind of runs away. And later, we find out that he killed himself right after that or unalived himself. Too late.
It's pretty dark stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And then again, because Aquamarine was a doctor in his past life, he's kind of going into doctor mode a little bit. And he's like, it hit this artery or blah, 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 blah. Like I have to put pressure on the bleeding, blah, 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 blah. And God, man, it's so intense. And again, like drama, like to be able to like portray and nail drama in this way in its like in its composition, and it's like this like the way that the scene happens and where the characters are and what it might even like mean, because it's interesting because I is like dying and she says, I'm not going to make it. I'm going to die. Tell the manager this, tell the director this, like do this.
Yeah,
do
she's still thinking about all this stuff she had to do. She's like, dang it, I still had this scheduled this week, upcoming this week. Next week I had this. Tell them that I can't make it next month. Like she's just rattling off all of the priorities that she has. And it's still like she's living for this thing that has never like it's given her money, yeah, but like true happiness, like I don't think so. And she died because of it. Like,
yeah, it was intense. But here's my theory about like just how like this was like this beautifully horrific thing was like, or this horrific thing was beautifully sort of depicted, I guess, which was that like Aquamarine's on one side of this like what seems to be sort of a glass door. And Ai's like leaning against this glass door, her back against it, right? Just the blood is smeared all over. And, Aquamarine is on one side helping her, trying to do whatever he can to stop the bleeding, but it's not working. And Ruby kind of hears what's happening and becomes involved in the scene. And Ruby is trapped on the other side of the door. And she's not allowed to come in. It's like, no, stay out. Do not try to come in here. So Ruby is like through the glass and, Aquamarine is like there with her being her doctor. And that's where this heartfelt moment happens where one of the last things she says is she does say, I love you to her kids. She says, I love you. And you can tell that in that last moment, thank God that it didn't feel the same as when she told it to her fans. Like she felt it maybe for the first time. But I think it's so interesting because, like you said in the beginning of the episode, Aquamarine was there with Ai. Aquamarine was there and had a more intimate relationship with her, knew her on a more personal level and was her doctor and did care for her and take care of her. And Ruby, who we haven't even still revealed who she is yet, but Ruby, who didn't have that, always watched Ai through a screen, always watched her,
Yeah, they have she has a separation of Ai as like a person and Ai as, I mean, she's definitely, the idol for sure. And that's what Aquamarine is there. And it would be different if both of them weren't seeing it, I feel like, but it is definitely, I feel, intentional.
Yeah, it's very symbolic.
Like that because it's like you see at the end, we do see that like a revenge story start to brew. Like I definitely think that Ruby, being the person that she was, like I don't know how well she would have handled like being in that situation or being in that room because she is already like super upset about obviously how it happened and what happened, but he like was able to like use that and like work towards actually finding out who it was later on.
Yeah, and I just like I said, I love that symbolism that she watched, her idol through this screen. Now she's literally trapped on the other side of this glass, this screen, sort of, having to watch it through a window the same way that she always kind of has, and how Aquamarine got to be there with her. And it was incredibly powerful, and it does turn into a revenge story. There's one more reveal here that I want to talk about before we talk about the note that it ends on, but the reveal is the identity of Ruby. which we do find out somewhat early on. But the identity of Ruby is, of course, the doctor's patient who died of cancer.
Which was Serena.
Yeah. And the reason that I love this is because, she also gets a moment in a chapter that is pretty much dedicated solely to her and her trying to become a dancer.
That was rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just the idea that, she was, a child when she was diagnosed with this terminal disease. So she didn't really have a normal childhood. And so she's afraid of dancing and not a good dancer because she doesn't even really know what it feels like to walk without suffering from these like physical ailments. And so, her mom, kind of comes in and sees her practicing her dance moves and says like, you always like fall, like she's like, the way that you fall is kind of weird. Like you always dance and like, you're always kind of prepared to fall. And she's like, you have to just kind of like trust yourself and you have to be confident. And it's because, it cuts back to her struggling down the hallways of this hospital, falling. And she said like, yeah, I fell all the time in my past life. And if I didn't brace myself correctly or learn how to fall correctly, then it would mean like severe damage and long recoveries. And it's just like her kind of realizing that she's been given the second chance.
Anymore, yeah.
Wow. I mean, this is like an incredibly well written and amazing story. I absolutely loved everything about it. And you want to talk about the reveal and the twist at the twist, I guess, of the direction of the story going forward?
We get another time skip, and it's Ruby and Aquamarine in like high school, I think now.
Yeah, they're like young adults now.
Yeah, I think they're in middle school. They have uniforms on.
Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe I'm thinking of, because we find out that actor that we saw earlier, much older, was Aquamarine.
Yeah. Yeah, which was awesome. And he's like, I act for revenge. And I kind of figured, because like the star, like each of them have a star eye, not like eyes where they're both star, but like one of them has like each, right or left. And yeah, I'm sure they're just child actors now or idols. And his whole goal is to find out like the real meaning, like who actually went after Ai and who killed her.
Yeah, because he starts putting the pieces together and realizing that the stalker couldn't have had all the information to get into the hospital, couldn't have had all the information about Ai's address if he didn't have some sort of inside source, couldn't have had the information about the twins if it wasn't from some inside source, who he, through going through this like process of elimination, realizes that the only person that it could be is their father.
Baby daddy.
So he has to figure out who the father is and
find
them. Baby Batty. And he actually, this is a really cool moment too, where like the manager's wife comes up to them and is like, would you guys mind if I
that part made me actually really emotional.
Yeah. She's like, would you guys be okay if I became your mom? She's like, I know that I will always be your real mother, but you feel like kids to me. And then,
Ruby just like runs to her and like hugs her. And Ruby's like literally, because the fucked up thing about it is like, that whole sequence where like, people were talking about Ai's murder, and the next, 2 weeks later, a week later, they just weren't covering it anymore. And they were covering the snow. And then they said, Ai's death was kind of like covered by the snow. Like it was just gone. Like people just stopped talking about it. And if they were talking about it on like Twitter, they were like talking shit and like making fun of it. And it's like, she actually deserved to die because she did this to her fans. Like, it's not surprising that it happened. And we just get that like crazy moment with Ruby like screaming at the phone. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, what are you guys, what is happening? Like, she deserved it. Like,
it shows the sort of like the real life ugliness and detachment that a lot of people have when it comes to like some of these celebrities, which I think we've been getting a lot better about as a society and as a culture. I know that we used to rip apart celebrities like Britney Spears and Amanda Bynes, and there might still be a lot of jokes there, but at least now we understand that they were kind of going through and dealing with a lot of things that we don't understand.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, fame is just something that can make or break a person.
And it can really break a person.
More so break, more or less, like more of the time than you would build up. It is something that they like, you have to teeter on. And like, that's why I was such a great representation of that, because it wasn't like you know, if she really was that type of person where like fame was the only thing that was important to her, then she would have not had the babies and she would have continued on and been, you know, continuing being an idol. It probably would have been easier for her, but she didn't want to do the easy route because it wasn't all about that. And she was so excited that she got this opportunity because like I said, like, you know, maybe more or less she would have been more successful. It wouldn't have been such a big deal if she was like older, but it's like she would have had to live, you know, all those years, you know, maybe wanting to do this thing when she knew that she couldn't because it would have resulted in her losing fans, losing popularity, like all of this work for what?
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know?
Yeah, it was an incredible series. And there's a moment too where like, you know, Aqua asked the director to raise him and, you know, he becomes an actor and that's the actor that we saw, which I mentioned, but it kind of ends on him saying like, this is my kind of quest for revenge now. And that's sort of what leads us to believe that it's going to change and become yet again, a completely different story going forward. I absolutely like love this story. The story was a beautiful surprise.
There's a lot of twists and turns,
emotions, drama, great characters. I loved everything about it. Oshi no Ko was something that was not on my radar at all. I think aesthetically is beautiful and for every other reason is equally as beautiful. And it's a series that I, you know, highly recommend. I mean, like I said, like this is a volume 1 that probably one of the most enjoyable volume 1 reads I've had in a long time.
Yeah, it was very unique, even though it was using like little slivers of things that we've seen before. We do see that most of the time and we go, oh, it's just that, but with a little twist. But this was like completely twist after twist, like it's becoming its own thing as the story progressed. And they definitely nailed like the emotional beats, the comedy beats, you know, even like the time frames of the time skips, like it wasn't like out of pocket, like, oh, we're just gonna go here now. It was like intentional for the story to move on, which was great. And I, you know, can't wait for the English release to come out because it is so beautiful. Like the art is definitely like, you know, one of the many highlights of this series. And I don't really see a lot of people talking about it. We have gotten recommendations of it, but if you haven't checked it out, like check it out. You'll be probably surprised at how much you like it based off of this. If you're like, oh, it's just going to be some, you know, idol cutie thing. No, it's like really, really, you know, insightful, and it opens that door to showing you like what is actually going on in like the idol industry to date. And it's super important to talk about it because we kind of either really dramatize it or we completely like disregard it. But I think this is like a great medium of like what, you know, is the reality in the entertainment industry and in the idol industry. And yeah, I think it's a good read for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this is officially going to be added to my list of things that I have to continue reading, which is not as long of a list as you'd think, you know, because again, with so much other things going on, like a series has to be really good for me to want to dedicate, you know, free time to completing it. And this is a series that I think is going to get added to that list. But yeah, that's going to do it for our volume 1 discussion on Oshi no Ko. Check it out if you haven't already. Please do. It's a fantastic series and a wonderful surprise and ride. If you've read it already and were one of those commenters telling us that we should read it, now you can tell us your thoughts, your more in-depth thoughts on it. Or if you decide to read it and check it out based on this review, let us know that too. Let us know any and all thoughts, comments, theories, feelings that you have about this series in the comments below. That would mean a lot to us. But we're not done yet. We're almost done, but not done yet. We have to get to our Wonder Circle, which is the segment of our show where we respond to comments that you've left on previous videos. Volume 1 Channel AI reads them aloud to us. And if you want her to read one of your comments in a future Wonder Circle, all you got to do is leave a comment on this video or any of our previous videos. But with all that said, Volume 1 Channel, can you hit us with the first comment, please?
This one comes from K.E. Replace the box with flag and you get a better romance and drama. Back at it again with the blue flag rec because it's been a while.
We have gotten recommended, I think specifically from this person, like maybe 3 or 4 comments, like read Blue Flag, like Blue Flag is great. And I looked at the synopsis and based off the cover, I was like, okay, you know, there's something going on here. Definitely, you know, a possible love triangle. Yeah, you could say that.
Wow.
You could say it's a love triangle, but not in the way you would think. Okay, I really want to read it.
Wow. Well, we're probably gonna get to that a lot sooner than later.
Like, I read the synopsis and I was like, sold. Like, I have to know what happens.
Wow.
Like, are you joking? Like, is it even like, is it a like, I don't know. I don't want to give it away, but I definitely want to read it after reading the synopsis. And yeah.
Wow. I mean, I did not expect
I don't know if
that
I told
much.
you.
No, you didn't. And don't, because I want to kind of maybe have a similar experience where I kind of get surprised by,
I would have been surprised reading it, but even reading the synopsis, I think it just made me want to read it more, I think.
Well, like I said, maybe that's coming sooner, than people realize.
And that's the spice I want. Okay, that's the spice I need. Yeah, I need it. I really, really, really want to read Blue Flag for sure.
Well,
soon.
I mean, shit. I mean, I guess expect a review soon.
Soon.
All right, Volume 1 China, can you hit us with the last comment, please?
This one comes from Monkey D. Luffy.
Oh.
Josh is so excited for this one. Love to see it. Printing out those cards and actually having the discounted English volumes? The pre-Crunchyroll 2000s anime struggle was real. Mr. Michaels is a real one out there.
Wow. You really were. I was kind of in the end era of that, where there was like a time where this was on our Zatch Bell episode, by the way.
Yeah, what you haven't watched yet, please go back and watch it.
It's such an amazing series. I loved all the comments we got on that too. Like, thank you.
Me too. I was so surprised.
I was so surprised. I thought, like, okay, it might, people, it might be too niche, but everyone that commented was like so excited that someone was talking about this, because it just felt like a long lost, archetype or archaeologic.
Yeah, it felt like something that would be in like, an Indiana Jones movie,
you have to like blow off dust.
Yeah, you gotta
and then you gotta get your like
in the Temple of Doom, you'll find, the tomes of Zatch Bell.
You have to get the needle and get it out the brushes.
Yeah, that's the thing. I felt like everybody's experience with it was similar to mine, like in the sense that everybody was like, I'm the only one that knows this thing exists. And then it just like it kind of warmed my heart to see everybody else kind of just being like, I thought I was crazy that I love this and that I knew that this existed, because no one seems to know about it. But yeah, it was an awesome surprise.
And like they said, the commenter said, like, it was, pre-2000s, even like early 2000s for me. It was like you could not find anime merch unless it was something like on Toonami, or it was like Pokemon, or if it was Yu-Gi-Oh, or if it was later a little Naruto, Dragon Ball, One Piece, like all of these things were the anime merch that I knew was out there. But I mean, if my younger self looked at what I had in this cabinet over here, I would go ballistic.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it has just changed so insane. Yeah. It's been an insane change of like the merchandise, and even things that don't have official merch have merch. So you can pretty much get anything at any time shipped to your house. Like, that was not the case. You were making freaking booklets of Zatch Bell. Like, you were out in the trenches, okay?
Yeah, and that was kind of fun, It was kind of fun doing that. I mean, obviously, I wanted, official merch, like, but it was, like you said, so hard to come by that we just had to kind of like make it if we really wanted it. And so like, I like converted these like binders to like spell books and like all these things. And yeah, I remember a time where it was, like you said, like for a long time, it felt like it was just like, really, honestly, it just felt like it was Naruto and Dragon Ball. And that was, all you were going to get anime wise anywhere. And if you went to like a Frankenstein's, which is like a place that we have out where we live, which is kind of like a nerd swap meet where they sell a lot of anime figures and stuff like that. Unless you had one of those places around you, because that's before really even like Amazon existed. That's before like, internet shopping was even like a thing. So,
yeah, for sure.
I mean, if you wanted this stuff, like it was impossible to get. I used to print my own freaking shirts, or a con.
Like that was mainly like how I got some of my stuff, but for sure, like my dad freaking drew Konata Izumi on my wall, because at that time I couldn't get any like posters unless I went on like eBay and paid a crazy amount of shipping to get it from Japan. Like, it was just not a thing.
Yeah.
And now I can just go anywhere and buy this stuff like this. And once I got my first job, I was like, the first thing I did was just buy so much stuff just to heal that inner child of like, remember when Hot Topic didn't have anything anime? Wasn't that a crazy time? Isn't that so insane?
Well, I feel like they always kind of had, like you said, the Inuyasha. Like they always had one like weird. They always had like one like weird.
One. But then it just half the story is freaking anime
Smart
stuff
move
now.
business wise.
I mean, it's insane. Like I just have to tell my 13-year-old self, 12-year-old self, it gets better. Don't worry.
Yeah, I mean,
don't worry.
We are
You're
living
gonna
in
go.
the glory days.
We really are. I'm
Yeah.
so happy
Thank
to have been
God.
born in this time.
Barnes and Noble was always a thing, and Barnes and Noble always had manga. In my memory.
Yeah.
Definitely not as big. I mean, now at the Barnes and Noble, by where we record is they have a dedicated like light novel section, and I remember before the light novels would be mixed in with all the manga. Like it wasn't really big enough to have its own separate sort of section, and now it has. I mean, so just seeing how even that's grown, and now all these other stores popping up, like yeah, it's really awesome to see. But I do look back fondly on those days of like, having to get creative with how you got your hands on merch.
Yeah, I mean, it was like the drawing. I was like, "Thank you, Dad, so much," because I couldn't draw that if I wanted to.
I mean, maybe that's why we all, and a lot of I think fans of this stuff drew or started drawing.
Oh, for sure, because you're like, how am I gonna make fan fiction? They're like, how am I gonna see these two characters? Because if I don't do it myself, roll up the sleeves.
Yeah, gotta figure this out.
Gotta do this right now.
But yeah, what a day and time that we live in now.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to do it for our Oneers Circle. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for listening, especially if you're here all the way at the very end. The very last thing we have to do before we go is thank our wonderful, beautiful, amazing Patreon members, which
thank
we
you
just
guys so much.
A huge milestone.
Shooty.
We just, I think, reached over 200 Patreon members.
Oh my God. What the hell?
That is insane to us. That blows us away. That means so much to us. I mean, you guys don't understand and know how much, like I said, like how much financial freedom that gives us to just like make this show that hopefully you love, make it even better and better and better, and dedicate more time to it and put more effort into it. I mean, you guys give us the freedom to do that, and you allow us. Like, this show is what it is because of our Patreon members, our cosplays, our everything. It's because of you. It touches both of us, from the bottom of our hearts. Like, thank you for allowing us to reach this milestone. It's incredible. And
it's shocking
and shocking.
It's every day. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. But do not worry if you're not a Patreon member and you would like to become one, and get early access to all of our episodes, access to our exclusive bonus Patreon podcast, Volume 1 Extra, then all you have to do is go to patreon.com/volume1pod or become a YouTube member by clicking join on this video. You get all that stuff at both places at our lowest tier. And I think it's like, $3 on, Patreon, and I think it's like $5 on YouTube. But patreon.com/volume1pod to become part of the Patreon gang. And there are other ways, so do not worry if you're not financially, able to support right now. There are many other ways that you can help support us, and we appreciate equally, that Mehgan will tell you about right now.
Yes, if you become a part of the algorithm gang, it pretty much all you have to do is comment on any one of our videos, anything you want. It could be an emoji, it can be a word. We've gotten like bagel, we've gotten French fries, we've gotten chicken tenders. Like, it could be anything. And if you comment down below on any one of our videos, it definitely helps our videos get spread far and wide throughout the YouTube verse, multiverse.
Sure, yeah.
And it really does help us so much. Like, comment, subscribe. Like, I know you guys hear that from everyone on this platform, but it really does like help a lot, and you can do all that for free $99, and you become gang affiliated with Volume 1.
Volume 1 gang, rise up.
Gang rise up.
But that is going to do it for another episode of Volume 1. Thank you for all of your support, no matter how you choose to show it. The only thing left to do now is to get out of here on our outro that is always the same and never changes, which today is...
Ay, como me duele.
I mean...
it's sad, but it's good.
It's sad. That's really sad. Okay.
Ay, Como me duele.
I mean, you gotta disrespect
No.
a legend like that.
Selena? Oh, they're both idols.
Yeah.
Selena was an idol
Yeah.
and she was murdered.
I thought that's why you were singing that song. Why were you singing that song?
Because it started with I.
No, and then you held your stomach, and I was like, "Oh my
Because
god!"
I wasn't relating it to her, but then I was like, oh, it clicked. Like Selena was murdered
Yeah,
by her manager. I was murdered by a crazy fan. They're both idols.
That's what I'm
They're both
saying.
murdered young.
okay,
It works.
It works, but I'm not gonna hold my stomach out of. Like, I don't want to disrespect.
Okay, you don't have to
Selena.
hold. No. I wasn't doing that for Selena. I was doing that for I. Let me get that. I don't
Yeah.
want it. I'm doing it for a fictional character's death, not a real person's death. I just want to make that clear. I was doing it because they're both murdered. It was that. Okay, I'm not shining a light on Selena. I'm not doing that for Selena.
Now I'm helping you. It's fine. I love it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So no, but you don't have to hold your stomach. I was doing that for I, not Selena.
Okay, we
not
get it.
disrespecting
No, we get
Selena,
it.
and you made it seem like I was disrespecting Selena when I was not disrespecting
I was just
Selena. Now
helping.
we're gonna get people being like, oh, Mehgan hates Selena. Mehgan is making fun
No,
of
I was
Selena's
just
death. It was
clarifying so that we
unfortunate
get
and it
ahead
was
of
sad
those
and it was
comments.
totally out of pocket for that who killed Selena.
Oh my god!
I hate her. Everyone hates her. Are you kidding me?
Well,
I'm gonna be mean. I don't give a shit. She's the worst person in the world.
Wow, a lot of heat at the end of the
I
episode.
don't. Okay. Anyway, let's go.
Wow, thank you.
I'm sorry. Selena's manager is the worst person, and if she's not already gone, I hope.
Thank you for watching. Oh my god, thank you for listening. And until next time.
Ay, como me duele. I hate that.
Wow, that was like.
I'm sorry.
I didn't expect
Okay, no
that
one will be
passion,
like,
that level of
I can't
passion.
believe that you would disrespect Selena's manager.
No,
No,